Lecture will be as usual 1 hour with about 30 minutes of lecture followed by about 30 minutes of question answers. As usual, we will not allow everybody to unmute their mic. During the session, if you have any questions, you can write down your questions in the chat window, and then I will be reading them out to our speaker. Before I invite Professor Anis Ahmad, let me introduce him to you. He is a Pakistani social scientist, an educationist and professor of Islam. Currently, he is the Vice Chancellor of Rifa International University, Pakistan. In the past, he was the first Dean of the Faculty of Usuluddin and Faculty of Social Sciences at the International Islamic University, Islamabad. Later, he also served as the Vice President of the university, during which time he visualized and founded the Dawa Academy. He also served as the first Dean of Faculty of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences of the International Islamic University, Malaysia. He was given an award by the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan. He was awarded fellowship by the University Science Malaysia, and he also earned meritorious professorship at the International Islamic University, Islamabad. Now I will request Professor Anis Ahmad to speak on today's topic, which is ethics and morality in the East and the West. Professor Anis
Ahmad. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala khatim al-anbiya. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. As very correctly said by Brother Shahran, ethics and morality are areas which cannot be overlooked in any civilizational setup. The fact of the matter is, civilizations rise and fall because of ethics and morality, not because of technology or wealth. Therefore, it's always important to understand what's the meaning of ethics and how morality can be helpful in creating an ethical order. The series of discussions is titled Ethical Order, and we'll try to find out from various angles how this ethical order exists and how it can be realized in today's scenario. To begin with, first slide please. The meaning and origin of the terms we are using, ethics and morality, is in front of you. The term ethics is derived from Greek ethikos, and that refers to custom and usage. Its usage goes back to Aristotle, who used this term in terms of character as well. And at the same time, we find that various philosophers use the word moralis in Latin equal to ethics. Next, please. Ethics in Greek is defined as philosophical study of moral life, which means that ethics carries a theoretical aspect. What is the principle and how it works? On the other hand, morality is understood as applied ethics. Therefore, morals and morality refers to manners observed by a specific community, reasoned knowledge of what is considered ethical. Morals also mean habitual conduct or behavior of a society. Moral sanctions and principles imposed on people in a society are respected and observed. Next, please. Ethics may be defined as the normative science of the conduct of human beings living in societies. That means normative means in principle, a science which judges this conduct to be right or wrong, to be good or bad. Next, please. A science is defined as a systematic body of knowledge about a particular set of related events or objects or matters. For example, political science deals systematically with political behavior of a group of people, governance and political institutions. And medical science deals with systematic study of health and welfare of human beings. Ethics as a science provides a systematic body of norms, values, and principles which help in regulating human conduct in society. Next, please. Now, ethics is also defined in terms of what kind of science it is. Sciences are divided in two general categories: positive or descriptive sciences describe objects and phenomena as we find them with the help of our sense organism. An ophthalmologist informs us about constitution of our eye and its health. An economist tells us about wealth generation, investment, effects of inflation on economic development, and other related areas. None of the descriptive or positive sciences claim to deal beyond their domain or set of object and facts. That is, something is economical or non-economical. Something is within the domain of physics or not. Next, please. Normative sciences, on the other hand, are a group of sciences that deal systematically with observable conduct and behavior or objects from an axiological or a normative viewpoint. These sciences deal with standards, rules, or conventions by which we judge objects, phenomena, conduct, or prescription as good or bad, right and wrong, evil or virtuous. Aesthetics, for example, deals with standards by which we judge and perceive objects as beautiful or ugly. Logic deals with standards by which we judge statements as true or false, consistent or contradictory, and conflicting. Therefore, ethics deals with standards by which we judge human actions to be right or wrong, good or bad. Next, please. Ethics, as a normative science, judges human conduct and actions as good or bad, appropriate or inappropriate. When good is taken to be key to ethical behavior, this leads to ethical theory characterized by value fulfillment, and right means fulfillment of a set of obligations toward others. Such theories are termed axiological, that is, stressing value aspect, or teleological, stressing final goal, purpose, objective, or design. I'm avoiding terms, but unfortunately some terms do come in our discussion. Next, please. When right is taken as key obligation and duty, such theories are termed deontological, stressing obligation or imperative. When we say that it is required, mandatory, then we call them deontological. Next, please. Good and right can be viewed as either objective, independent existence, or subjective, standing for a human intervention. The former is termed as ethical objectives, while the latter is called ethical subjective. The epistemological question, how the good and right are known, is answered by ethical naturalists who claim right can be known as natural objects are known, and right can be empirically verified. In other words, ethical naturalists, based on empirical methodology, tell us what is right and wrong. Those who claim good and right can only be known by a special intuition are called ethical intuitionists. Intuition means what you feel inside. So those who say that we know by intuition is good and bad. And then those who think ethical terms do not stand for anything objective are called non-cognitivists, because they are not dealing with intellectual or academic aspect. They think ethical judgments stand for emotion, attitudes, propositions, and recommendations. Next, please. Socrates viewed ethics as inner principle. It is better to suffer than to do evil, which means that for good you should be able to sacrifice and no compromise. He holds as naturalist, intuitionist approach. Plato regards good as eternal form to be realized in human life. That this is something which is a part of design of nature and human nature. It's known as a teleological intuitionist approach. Aristotle holds that goal of life is happiness or well-being. Virtue is formed by finding the golden mean. That means what gives you pleasure is good. So he is categorized as theologist, naturalist. St. Augustine also considers happiness as universal principle. He is also considered in the same category. Kant, next please. Kant regards ethical conduct to be categorical imperative, which means it is like a law, obligatory and must be observed, no exemptions. Bentham considers greatest good for the greatest number of the goal to be as ethical, and same is the matter of John Stuart Mill, defender of utilitarian view. He thinks greatest sum of higher pleasure is ethical. Nietzsche, on the other hand, thinks that will to power transcends all other things, and if we have power, that gives us authority, and that is ethical. Next, please. Similarly, some other philosophers consider ethical system as a reflection of social condition. They are known as ethical relativists. Sartre, for example, thinks that it experience, your personal experience, which makes you make ethical judgment or authentic choice. John Rowell, the latest approach is that what is unfair is also ethically good. Therefore, justice for him is the basis of something ethical. Next, please. The term good generally means a thing which is valuable for some end or purpose. Therefore, you say it is good to eat apple, it's good to drink milk. But what is ultimate good? Summum good. Philosophers try to find out not only what is good, but what is ultimate good or supreme good. Building a house, purchase of a car may be an end, but not a supreme good or summum bonum. The purpose is not home as such, but something else. Next, please. Human beings have a variety of ideals, objectives, and purpose of life, such as wealth, power, knowledge, love, serving others, etc. Ethics as a normative science offers criteria to make a cognitive, perceptive judgment in conduct of affairs. Now here the point is, it is based on a cognitive, which means based on reason, and a perceptive, which means analytical judgment. We analyze things and only then we go for what is right and wrong. Next, please. Ethics being theoretical implies that knowledge of ethical principles is expected to help in good conduct, but not a condition for good conduct. Its study cannot necessarily make men and women pious and virtuous. If you pick up a book on health sciences and read about vitamins, minerals, various kinds of chemicals which can benefit, or natural food which can help you, you may memorize the whole book, but it does not increase your health. Therefore, for example, a good painter is one who can paint beautifully. A good man is not one who can, but one who does act right. Therefore, ethics, ethical principles, what is good and what is bad is not enough. A good painter is good when he is asleep. A good man is not good unless to be sleeping is something good. Therefore, goodness is not a capacity or potentiality, but a volitional act, which means a willful act makes something good or bad. Next, please. The essence of virtue lies in the will. What is one's intention? A good will is good not because of what it performs or affects, not by its aptness appropriateness for attainment of some proposed end, but imply by virtue of the volitions. What is the purpose behind? What is the intent behind? As normative science of conduct of human beings living in society, ethics judges conduct as right or wrong, good or bad. Positive sciences describe objects or phenomena, as we already said a while ago, uh, as observed by our senses. A botanist is not expected to declare a plant beautiful or ugly, good or bad, but to describe what as a phenomena. He will tell us, is it long or short or purple or soft or hard, smooth. All those aspects does not allow the person to make an ethical judgment. Therefore, all those sciences which claim to be applied sciences based on empirical evidence normally have no capacity to claim whatever they are doing is ethical or not. Next, please. Ethical judgment involves use of terms like right and wrong, moral, immoral, ought to do, should do, duty, bad, good, and so on. But does goodness or righteousness depend upon their results or circumstances and situations? Ethics, as a normative science, tries to resolve these and similar issues. Next, please. Ethics, as a normative study, deals with the ideals and standards of righteousness and wrongness, good and evil, involved in human conduct. Unlike other focus areas, it has a wider scope and domain. Next, please. For example, psychology deals mainly with individuals' cognitive, emotional behavior in a cultural context. It tries to understand a person's personality and its formative phases. Human desires, wants, wishes in psychology are studied from a psychological perspective. Human desires and wants depend on the worldview of a person or society, what he believes, what he thinks good. Ethical norms in the West and in the Eastern thought are also subject to social environment. Next, please. Ethics is organically related with political, social, economic, cultural, educational, legal, and communicational domains. Legitimacy of acquisition and consolidation of power in politics and monopoly and control of resources in economics are essentially ethical issues. Next, please. Desire and wish as terms are used synonymously in psychology, economy, politics, as well as in ethics, yet there is a difference. The term wish refers to those desires that continue to be effective. An effective wish may or may not lead to a definite act of will. An intention or resolution is more than a wish. It leads to action or force of will or power of carrying out. And like, for example, when I intend or have an intention to kill a person or to hug a person, then it is not just a desire, a wish, but it has more force of effect. Next, please. Human beings are also members of a group, a family, a nation, a profession or trade. This affects their deliberate or willful actions. Since they belong to a family or a university or a profession or a club, therefore, whatever they want to do, their willful actions have some influence from their background. The true intention corresponds pretty close to the true purpose. Purpose refers to the mental activity, while intention refers to the end towards which the mentioned activity is desired, which means that we have this very thin difference, that we have a purpose which refers to our intellectual activity, while intention refers to what we ultimately want to achieve. I bounce a ball which apparently, after bouncing, hits a person's nose and the person starts bleeding. Was it the intention when I was bouncing or accident? Therefore, an intention means what I intend. If I intended to bounce the ball so it hits the nose of the person, then this is an action which needs to be judged, right or wrong. The purpose of a graduate course is to learn, while intention is to achieve the end or a PhD. Therefore, we draw a line between what is the purpose, what is the intention, what is your feeling, and so on and so forth. And all this leads us to conclude whether what we are doing is right or wrong. That's why you will see that when we say intention, niya, then intention determines whether whatever you are going to do will be something better or something bad. Next, please. There may be a difference between immediate and remote intention of an act. X and Y may have immediate intention to save P from drowning in a river, while X may do so simply to save his life, while Y may save him from drowning in order to hang him later. Both have different intentions. One is just saving the life, other is saving the person in order to let the law decide about him, should he be hanged or not. Therefore, remote intention of an act is called motive. That is the motive which motivates. Next, please. We may also distinguish between outer and inner intention of an act. The outer intention of lifting a man fallen in a ditch may be to help him come out, while the inner intention may be to relieve one's own mind from human distress, that a person is fallen in a pit and I have done nothing for him. And this pain or personal suffering is the inner intention, not what appears. The outer intention may be to have inner peace through prayer, while the inner intention may be to secure a place in paradise. Next, please. There can be a conscious or an unconscious intention of an act. Social work may be due to concern for well-being of mankind or personal reputation. That I will be given an award, we will say, I'm very a big social worker, philanthropist, and so on and so forth. A formal and material intent may also be different. Two persons may intend on overthrow a political regime with common material intention, while formal intention of one person may be liberal policy of the state, while the other may do so because he thinks the state is too conservative, and both may join in overthrowing the state. Ethics helps in judging the ethicality of human conduct and behavior according to certain agreed norms. This is what we wanted to reach. What is the purpose of ethics? And this is something which is a subject that exists in the thought of East and the West. It's not confined to any single community, any single place, any single age. This is first part of my discussion, and I've tried to confine my time very judiciously. So within first 30 minutes, I finish my presentation, and then let us have an interactive session to explore further into the meaning of how ethics and morality is understood in the East and the West. Please, any questions?
Jazakumullah khair. We have first question from Nuruddin. Nowadays, with the spread of
A
ethical
bit louder, please.
relativism, nowadays, with the spread of ethical relativism globally, there is a discourse that all religions basically teach goodness. Is this view wrong? How is Islamic ethics different from other religious ethics? For example, Christianity. Thank you.
A very important question, but you are a bit fast. This was introduction of the series that we are going to have, inshallah. And in the introduction, I did not want to talk at all about what is Islamic ethics and morality. I only wanted to cover very quickly a bird's eye view of what is ethics and morality as it exists in Western and Eastern literature. But since you have raised the question, I am convinced that every religion has enormous good, talks about peace, goodness, justice. But each religion has its own view of justice, its own view of peace, its own view of fairness. Now, we don't have enough time to comparatively study whether Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Chinese religions, all of them have one and same concept or where they differ. It's a very important topic and can be dealt later on, but not at this stage when we are just scratching the surface. We are not yet going in depth. We'll inshallah go in more depth, and next discussion will be sharing with you what is the basis of Islamic ethics and morality, and with that perhaps you can raise your question again. Islamic ethics and morality is a separate issue. We'll be dealing with it in detail in one whole discussion, inshallah.
Next question from Al-Haji. Please, are there some universal ethical or moral standards that human societies in both East and the West work on? What are they? Or ethics relative owing to the society?
Well, this is the topic of my third discourse, Universal Principles of Ethics and Morality. And we'll go on each one in detail with proper references. So just wait for a while, but respond to your both questions about ethical relativism. Ethical relativism means that there is no one single standard, but ethics is relative to individual judgment or collective judgment or state judgment, which means collectively a community of gangsters, a gang, agree that we will attack every street walker and snatch money from the person. This is a gang collective agreement on what in their view is right or wrong. Similarly, a group of people may agree that if we find a person treated unfairly, we will together go and save the person. For them, this is something good. But what is the ultimate objective? Why are they saving the person, or why the gang is attacking the person? It is based on this collective agreement, not based on any divine principle. Similarly, an individual may go to a college, a university, and get a PhD in nuclear physics. His real intention may be to develop a deadly device which can destroy the whole world. But he is convinced that when he will do it, his name will be flashed on the media and people will be requesting him to help them in using that device, and he can sell that at a very high price. Individual judgment. For him individually, it is good, nothing wrong. Therefore, ethical relativism means when a person decides himself, or a group decides, or a state decides. A state may say that every citizen should carry an ID card or else will go to prison. That means if you're not carrying, it's bad, wrong, and you are subject to punishment. Therefore, ethical relativism means when a person himself or a group or a state may agree on an ethical standard. On the other hand, when we say absolute universal ethics, it means individual, group, state, all of them may not like, but since it is universally required, they have to observe it. They can refuse to observe, but they are supposed to observe. That's what is I mentioned a while ago when Immanuel Kant says categorical imperative. This was the meaning that it has to be anyhow. So ethical relativism essentially is a matter of each individual having liberty, as you hear nowadays. It is my body, it's my money, it's my car, it's my knowledge, and I have a right to deliver knowledge or not. All those things are my personal matters. This is a reflection of relative ethics being practiced by people.
Next question from Rakia Ashraf. Why is Islam taken as Deen-e Fitrat, whereas all religions have ethics and values?
Well, the reason is very simple. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the originator. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator, the fashioner who fashions, engineers everything. And as the designer of human beings, he has provided certain universal rules and principles. These rules and principles are exactly as human nature demands, while there are others who, out of their own reason, their own logical thinking, their own experience, come up and say, in our view, this is more natural for human beings to do. For example, in an African bush or jungle, a tribe living for several centuries without covering upper part of body assumes this is natural. Therefore, they think they are living in a natural way. The same person, if he or she walks in a so-called civilized society where people cover themselves, will be considered a threat to society, obscene, impolite, very much disturbing. Therefore, for what was natural for that African tribe in a jungle may not be natural for a person in a city. Similarly, religions which claim that their founders provided teachings, say for example, Confucianism claims it is Confucius who provides those principles. For example, Hinduism claims that there is a saying of Krishna, saying of Rama, saying of so and so, who are personified, or Buddha says so and so, or Zoroaster says so and so, or in Judaism, Rabbi Moses, as they say instead of prophet, Rabbi Moses says so and so. In all these cases, whatever is declared as being natural is given by whom? By individual, human being. Therefore, the basic difference will be that even in world religions, what's claimed to be natural but given by a human being, and in Islam, what's given by the divine revelation or the creator of humankind, these cannot be same categories. A category given by the creator of universe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a principle given by human wisdom cannot be at same level. This is why Islam as Deen Fitra is not a human creation, but Fitra is defined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah tells us what is natural, what is unnatural. It is natural that you respect your parents and bow down. It's unnatural to be proud and rude to them. Other religions may say respect parents and elders, but that's based on individual wisdom, not divine wisdom. Yet, these are two different categories. Therefore, Islamic ethics and teachings cannot be equated with so-called human ethics and principles.
Next question from Zulkifli is similar. Kant said that we can get true morality without religion's help. What do you think about this statement?
I think my answer has covered this very clearly, that human ethics and morality, even United Nations can get together and make some ethical principles, but those principles made by human beings cannot be of same category, of same importance, of same superiority as we find the divine principles given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if those are preserved as uncorrupted in Judaism or anywhere else, they will have same character. But if they are not preserved and human ideas are mixed with them, they will not be as relevant. Since in Islamic case, every single statement of the Quran has been preserved in its original form without any corruption. Therefore, it is a different category. It has a higher status as compared to all other principles of ethics and morality.
Next question from Muhammad Asim. Can we find a way to determine what's good or evil based on what should that judgment be? Are morals determined based on nature or given by authority?
Well, the answer is given by a hadith of Prophet, peace be upon him. And he says that make your heart your mufti, which means that if a child, if an adult, if an aged person, whatever may be the case, is sincere and honest and not influenced by social environment, greed, personal benefit of his group or any other affiliation, then with objectivity, if one asks his heart or her heart, then it tells us what is good or bad. The same phenomena is discovered by a well-known philosopher, Ibn Tufail, in his book Al-Hayb bin Yaqzan, where he imagines a person who is living in a situation where no one is around except that person, and no way of guidance coming from anywhere. So he tells us about that person's story, that if this person is unbiased and not selfish and fully objective, then whatever comes to his mind will be always natural and good. Now, that is a hypothetical situation. And I doubt very much that every individual can have that capacity of being that objective and that much detached from one's upbringing. Every child, every human being raised in an environment absorbs many concepts from childhood. The crude example is that in a Muslim family, if a child who is hardly 2 years urinates and gets 1 or 2 drops on his dress, then we assume the whole dress is unclean, not usable for prayer. But the same phenomena in many other societies may not be considered polluting the whole dress. They may think, well, it is just natural, when it dries, no problem at all. Therefore, human reason and judgment alone cannot determine always what is natural, although they have a liberty to assume, but I think there is need for divine guidance ultimately to tell us what is natural.
Next question from Ilhamni. Is there a difference between ethics, morality, and akhlaq in Islam? 3 terms.
Well, the term akhlaq is used by the Quran in a very comprehensive sense. It is not theoretical, it's not just practical, it combines both. While, as I said in the beginning, and if you go to research in books of ethics and morality, then ethics in general is those principles which tell you what is right and wrong, and morality is its application. And there is a clear line between them. As I said a while ago, that you may read a book which from cover to cover says that if you speak truth, you will have a good family. If you speak truth, you will have good business. If you speak truth, you will have good political order. If you speak truth, you will have justice. And till the end of the book, you keep on reading about truth and truth and truth. But if you don't speak truth yourself, then what's the benefit of reading all about truth? In Islam, these two areas are not separated. Akhlaq includes all aspects of morality and ethics together. Therefore, the Quran says, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. The Prophet, peace be upon him, is declared by this ayah at the highest level of akhlaq, which means that his conduct, his behavior, whatever he is saying, whatever he is doing, is not separated. It is the best possible example of kindness, of love, of forgiveness, of steadfastness, of istiqamah, and so on and so forth. It does not say that he's a good speaker on ethics, a good philosopher on ethics, a good orator on ethics, but it says that your conduct and behavior, everything together, is at the highest level. So akhlaq in Islam is a comprehensive terminology. We'll deal with it when we come to Islamic ethics. Today's discussion was not meant for that purpose. It was just meant to let you know how philosophical understanding of ethics is existing in East and West.
Next question from Faisal Muhammad. How can a Muslim evaluate whether ethics for new novel matters such as Western biomedical ethics is in line with Islamic principles when there is no reference to take from the Islamic intellectual traditions? For example, cloning, genetic modifications, DNA manipulation, etc.
Well, all these subjects you have mentioned have very clear indications in the Quran and Sunnah. And we will talk about those. I will request you to kindly write down your question, save it, and then we talk about Islamic ethics and morality. Then you raise that question. Islamic objectives of Sharia as well as Islamic Sharia as such provides solutions for all these aspects very clearly without any doubt and ambiguity. Therefore, it's incorrect to think that it's only so-called Western writers who have come up with biomedical ethics. The standard text is Bucop's book on medical ethics, which is used in prestigious medical programs, and people take it nearly as a Bible for biomedical ethics. But we will deal with that when the time comes. I can only say that Islam has provided, the Quran and Sunnah has provided very clear directions on these aspects. What are the issues, not only what you have mentioned, but many other issues, the artificial insemination, surrogate mother, what kind of surgical interventions are allowed, what are not allowed, what's ethical and what's unethical. All those aspects have been very clearly indicated in the Quran and Sunnah, and scholars have done remarkable works on those, which are available in print in English and many languages.
Next question from Nuruddin. Can you explain more about the differences between meta-ethics, normative ethics, and applied ethics?
Well, I did not want to go in details of philosophical aspects. I just wanted to give you a bird's eye view, but very briefly. Ethics that is based on empirical approach does not go beyond empirical judgment, which means what is materially, physically visible, measurable, experimentable is the basis of ethics and morality. And similarly, those who are intuitionists, they depend essentially on what they feel from inside, intuitionally. Intuition is not cognitive process. Intuition is emotional process where your heart tells you something about. Just as you have the term emotional intelligence, similarly you have intuitive intelligence, which tells you is this something good or bad. It's what you call as a gut feeling in English. So that gut feeling is what tells you right or wrong. And that's again very much individualized. It's not based on an objective source of knowledge. While in Islam, all ethical actions are based on an objective source of guidance, which is Wahi, and not a matter of what I like or what even the Prophet personally likes. Prophet's actions are fully guarded, watched, and protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, what Allah wants, the Prophet does. What Allah does not want, the Prophet does not do. Therefore, it's not a matter of personal intervention, but everything done by the Prophet. And that's why the Quran in several places says very clearly that whoever follows the Prophet follows Allah. Man yuti Rasula faqad ata Allah. It's not the reverse, that whoever follows Allah and the Prophet, but whoever follows the Prophet follows Allah, Allah's obedience. Therefore, prophetic act is not individual act. This is guided by divine revelation and endorsed by divine revelation. It cannot be considered as just a personal choice or personal behavior, except where the Prophet himself has said, this is my personal like or dislike, you don't have to follow it. And if he identifies that, something different. Otherwise, whatever is done by him publicly is not a personal matter.
There is just one question left, so we'll take it. Does ethic in lens of philosophy differ from religion? What is the main difference between ethic in philosophy and ethics in religion and ethics in Islam?
The simple difference is that all philosophical judgments are based on speculation. I speculate, I think in logical terms, I have a premise, a second premise, and a conclusion. This is logical thinking. And it is me who decides. Instead of me, it may be Socrates, Aristotle, anyone else. While religious ethics means what the religion XYZ claims coming from a religious source. For some religions, their source is holy persons. For some religions, the source is some kind of hearing, shruti in Sanskrit, what they heard from coming from somewhere. In some, it's revelation or inspiration. Therefore, religious ethics too has various shades. All of them are not one and same. You cannot say every religious ethics is one and same because their source is different. If the source is different, how can they be same? Although they may talk about one phenomena, all may talk about peace and love. But if the source of knowledge in each case is different, they cannot be of one and same category.
Jazakumullah khair. We have run out of time. Professor Anis, could you please conclude today's lecture in few minutes?
Jazakallah khairan. If we look on the literature that has been in circulation for at least over a century in Asia, in Europe, in America, in Africa, then we are taught those ideas which originate in Greek philosophy, which originate in so-called European awakening, Renaissance, Reformation, age of science, age of technology, modernity, all these words which are used by our scholars, our leaders, politicians, teachers, go back to their Eurocentric root. That means ethics and morality, which has been taught in Malaysia, in Pakistan, Indonesia, in Turkey, Egypt, in America, you name any country, has its roots in European thought, European definition, European vision, European view of life. Whatever they say good is taught in those books as good. Therefore, the purpose was to let my audience understand that ethics and morality, as we talk about it today, is essentially a matter of Eastern and Western thought originating from one source, human mind, human culture, human society, or social constructs. Those are given the name ethics. On the other hand, Islamic ethics and morality comes from a different source. It's not coming from Makkah, not coming from Medina, not coming from Yemen, but coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah tells people of Makkah and Medina how to behave. It's a different category, but we'll talk about it later. It was not my topic today. Today's topic was just to look at an aerial view of how ethics and morality is understood and communicated in East and West, and both are no different at all. It is wrong to think that East has different concept. Eastern and Western concept of ethics and morality is no different at all, because either it is relative, intuitive, speculative, or individualistic or relative. Therefore, no difference at all between East and West in terms of their ethical origin and standards.
Thank you everybody for actively participating, and thank you Professor Anis for your time and lecture. I will now request Brother Shahran to take over.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you, Dad. We'll see everyone next week, same time, inshallah. We'll start at 9:30 or half an hour later than the usual time. Thank you so much, Prof. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.
Assalamu warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Fi hafzillah.